Welcome and good afternoon to Faith Speaks here on WICX-FM on Catholic Radio and also around town here on CCTV. And we're here at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish here in Concord Heights, and I'm so happy to have with me today Father Newman from the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church. And we're going to try to get somebody on from there before, I think before you, maybe I don't know if you were there, when I tried to, it seemed like there was somebody else before you got there, but I don't know, but it's good to get you on because it was almost not an appropriate time, but it seemed like with Greg passing, with Greg Macris, I mean, it was just such a shock.
That's for sure.
And because there are a lot of things I don't understand about the Orthodox religion. I mean, I've got many Greek friends, like Chris Pappas, who just left, and then the other Chris Pappas down at the Puritan in Manchester, but who's now a U.S. congressman. But anyway, I still don't, understand. I know that, because I said to Jimmy Macris, I said, no, and of course he called it a full Mass, but obviously your Mass and your Divine Liturgy, they must be about somewhat the same in a way. You do communion or Eucharist?
Yes,
okay,
that's the essence of Orthodoxy.
Okay, and you also the blood or the wine that the people can have if they wish to. That's what I thought, because I know used to be Louisa Timbus. She used to be, before she passed away, she used to be the communion there. And then she came to our wedding at St. John's that time. But, and then of course you have you have like a first and second reading and then the gospel. How do you do that?
Well, the liturgy has sort of the same structure as the Mass. All liturgies have pretty much the same structure, no matter what liturgical family they belong to.
Yeah.
So the first part of the liturgy is called the Liturgy of the Word, or the Liturgy of the Catechumens, and that centers around the reading from the Epistle, the reading from the Gospel. And then there's the Liturgy of the Faithful, or the Liturgy of the Eucharist, and that centers around the consecration of the gifts and Holy Communion.
It seems like for us here, the first reading is of the Old Testament, and the second reading is the New Testament usually. And then the gospel, of course, the Father does here. But I always wondered, and then of course, your seasons, sometimes your Easter, especially Easter, is almost like a week later than us, or sometimes a month later.
Yeah.
But didn't the two churches or something somehow try to agree in the future that they would try to have it at the same time?
The problem is that all the Orthodox churches are separate entities jurisdictionally. And so for a change like that to take place, you'd have to have all of the Orthodox churches deciding that, and probably in an ecumenical council, and that's not very likely to happen.
Well, you've got Greek Orthodox, then you've got the Russian Orthodox, and what else do you have?
There are 23 different autocephalous churches. I think 23. I'm not very good with numbers, but there's there are the original patriarchates of Alexandria, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Constantinople, and then over the centuries, different churches received their independence, so to speak, like Moscow, and then the Church of Cyprus, and the churches of Serbia and Bulgaria and Romania after the revolt against the Turkish domination, and more recently you have the churches of Poland and the Czech lands and Slovakia have their own jurisdiction. Church of Finland, the Church of Japan, for example, are autonomous or autocephalous churches.
So the Eastern Orthodox, that's what they consider the Eastern Orthodox.
Yeah. I like to describe it to people as it's like ice cream. Ice cream is ice cream, but it can be chocolate, it can be vanilla, it can be strawberry, but it's all ice cream. And it's the same way the Orthodox are. Each group, so to speak, has its own flavor. So the Greeks do things and have a certain spirit that fills Orthodoxy that's Greek. And then the Russians have a different sort of spirit. The Russians tend to be much more serious than the Greeks, like, for example. They take things much more seriously. A lot of it comes from historical circumstances, the way society is and interacts. So we share the same faith and we share the same liturgy, but very often local customs are different. There's a different type of music in each area. There's a different type, it's just sort of different feel. The feel in the Greek church is different from the feel in the Russian church, or even in an Antiochian church, a church from Lebanon or Syria.
I know I read sometimes in our readings about the Greeks in Jerusalem and how they were. I know Father Dmitry used to say that the Greek church was the first church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the places where St. Paul went are all Orthodox churches.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And he supposedly tried to convert them.
Yep.
I love history, and that's why I'm sometimes trying to figure this out. Well, you know, it's just like with Mary and Joseph. Obviously, I know you folks still you do that as well with Easter, like the crucifixion there. And
Mm-hmm.
now Christmas is the same with, you believe in Mary and Joseph and baby Jesus. Yeah. So, but of course, what makes them in a way laugh is how TV presents the three wise men coming on Christmas Eve, which they didn't come for, someone said, almost a year afterwards.
Could be, yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah, because they said that, because they were, Joseph they were living in a house or some kind of.
Yeah, it refers to, they went into the house and
Yeah.
presented their presents.
So that wasn't Christmas Eve, obviously.
No.
And then you hear sometimes there was a fourth wise man, but then we never heard about
That's
that.
a legend, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. But Herod was supposedly so threatening that he wanted to make sure they came back to him, but they didn't. They got a dream to go back another way. But I've always been fascinated with Advent. I just love, the Christmas story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But in Lent, now you do Lent.
Yes.
You do Lent. Yep. Every so often I'll talk to like Nikki and Billy down at the Vino's there about it. And I'll say, now when is your Lent? Or, but they also do lamb though, don't they? Lamb is a big thing.
At Easter, yeah.
Lamb heads too.
Real hardcore Greeks will do lamb heads, yes. Yeah.
I've seen them down there in the meat case sometimes at Hannaford, and I was like, ugh, that would be, I couldn't take that, but.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Lamb has never been a favorite of mine. Anyway, we used to have lamb chops as a kid, but
yeah.
It was just.
Well, this is much different from lamb chops.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I really, I know we did a TV show years ago in the church. Father Dmitry showed us around there and everything. We had the camera rolling, and it was really good. But I can't remember how big your church is, though. I know for Greg's funeral, Jim said it was by invitation only. But
yeah.
I guess more than that came.
Yeah, it was almost 100 people were at his funeral. About 1,000 people were at his wake.
Yeah.
But the parish itself, we have about 115 what we call stewardship units. It's either a single person or a family. So it's sort of a medium to small parish.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
See, I thought you had maybe a bigger group than that in Concord, but well, I know there was Mark Manis there, Mariah, and his family. Because I went to school with his son Andrew, and they were Greek, remember? And of course, back in school days, we never knew much about that. I didn't even know what the heck Hanukkah was. We had a Jewish kid in our class. Nothing ever was mentioned about it. Only that we couldn't do Christmas trees in junior high school and stuff like that because of the Jewish kid. We didn't know. But so you have been with us now in Concord for about what,
4 years?
4 years. And where did you serve before that, Father?
Newburyport, Massachusetts.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many parishes in New Hampshire?
Let me think. There are about 9 more or less full-time parishes in New Hampshire.
Really?
We have a 1 or 2 part-time. Like the priest will come on Sundays or every other Sunday. But I think they're about 9.
Are you having a shortage of priests around this in the country, like they are with the Catholic Church?
We do. We do to a certain extent. It's probably not as severe. Of course, we have fewer churches to man.
Mm.
But we certainly could use more priests.
Now, I know, are you married then?
I am married, yes.
So you allow your priest to get married then?
What happens, you have to be married before you're ordained.
Okay.
So if once you're ordained, that's it. You're not allowed to marry. So in other words, it's sort of incorrect to say that married men, the priests can be married men. Actually, it's married men can become priests. In other words, the church will ordain married men, but if you're not married, there's no more marriage after that. Ordination is the last sacrament.
So a single man could become a priest when
Yes.
he's married to the basically married to the church.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And what about the bishop? You have a bishop,
Right. Yes.
And can he be married?
No. The bishops are since about the 7th century have had to be unmarried.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I think I remember that.
The tradition there is that the bishops are usually chosen from among the monastics. I guess theoretically that they're sort of spiritual professionals. The monastics, their life is dedicated to prayer and only to prayer, whereas a parish priest has so many other concerns, and so they would take the bishops from among the monastics, and that way he would be a good, solid spiritual leader for the diocese. But in America, especially, where for a long time we didn't really even have monasteries.
Really?
Yeah, it's just relatively recently that monasteries have been established.
Ah.
So the bishops are taken from among the unmarried clergy, but they can't be married.
Well, that's good then. All right. Now I know the Catholics of course have the Pope. What is your supreme leader? Is there one or no?
Jesus.
Okay, so there's no patriarch from.
Well, there's no equivalent to the Pope in Orthodoxy. Each church has its leader, so to speak, but it's a jurisdictional position. It's not like, for example, the Pope is considered to be that by divine choice.
Yeah.
And I mean, we certainly believe that the Holy Spirit has a role in electing the head of the church, the patriarch or archbishop or whatever his title might be. But we don't believe that's not a position given to us by Christ. It's more the way to think of it best is to think of it as the chairman of a committee, and it sort of grew up locally. For example, you think back to the 3rd century or so, and you have a bunch of independent churches because every bishop is considered equal to every other bishop by ordination. Yeah. So, but they want to, and the church is complete and full in each diocese in the person of the bishop. But you don't want to be isolated, one from the other, because then you can fall into heresy and you can have all sorts of problems. And also there's sort of practical problems that come up that you might be able to get advice from your other fellow bishops. So a group of bishops would meet together, okay? And once you have a meeting like that, you have to just have someone who calls the meeting, who is in charge of the meeting. And so he would receive the title of archbishop, and the chief bishop. Then you would have, say, a larger group of, say, all the churches in Asia Minor, or all the churches in Greece might get together, and the bishop of the chief city, the largest city, would then be the chief of that meeting. And he would receive the title of metropolitan because the metropolis is the largest city. Yeah. Okay, and then you just go up from there, and you have in the early church the 5 big cities of the Roman Empire. You have Rome, Alexandria, and Antioch were the 3 big cities. So you start off with 3 sort of larger groups, and the head of each of those groups got the title of patriarch. which simply means the leading father, so to speak. And then as time went on, like for example, the Fourth Ecumenical Council, that's what let me think now. I can't remember now which council made the Bishop of Constantinople into the level of patriarch. But he was made a patriarch, and the Bishop of Jerusalem was made a patriarch. So then you had five, what we call the pentarchy, or the five rulers. And then, as long as you had the Roman Empire sort of intact, or at least quasi-intact in Byzantium, you just had one large group. But after Constantinople fell to the Turks in the 15th century, and then you have the revolutionary movements in the 19th century, starting with the Greek Revolution in 1821, all of the countries in the Balkans gained their independence from Turkey. But none of them wanted to be subject to the Patriarch of Constantinople because he was subject to the Turks. So they didn't want to be politically free of the Turks, yet religiously subject to the Turks. So each of them declared their independence, and gradually their independence was recognized, and most of them had the title of patriarchs. So the Patriarch of Serbia, and the Patriarch of Bulgaria, and the Patriarch of Romania. The chief bishop of Greece simply kept the title of Archbishop. So you have the Archbishop of Athens is the head of the Church of Greece. And other places, like in Moscow, received its independence soon after the fall of Constantinople. It was made in a patriarchate, and so it sort of multiplies in that way. But each of them is really the chairman of sort of the top committee.
Sure.
And none of them is considered to be infallible. None of them is, we respect them, and we recognize their authority, and they have a jurisdictional authority. They can appoint bishops, and they can just sort of jurisdictional things. But they would never say pronounce on doctrine or something like that nature. That's reserved for ecumenical councils.
Now, is your liturgy all in Greek? If I were to go to your church, or say the Greg's service that time, was it all in Greek so I wouldn't understand a word of it? Or was it
No,
English?
we still use a fair amount of Greek because we still have a lot of parishioners who don't understand much English, actually.
Really?
Although the younger people and the younger generations don't know any Greek. What people don't realize is that the Greek that they know is not the Greek of the liturgy anyway. Yeah. The Greek of the liturgy comes from the 4th century or so. It's a special type of Greek that is relatively complex. So they might know things like Kyrie eleison, Lord have mercy, or they might recognize words in like the reading of the gospel or something like that. But if they had a longer or more complex prayer, they wouldn't understand any more than you would what it means. But it sounds familiar to them, and that gives a certain level of comfort as well.
Sure.
So our liturgy probably falls maybe 50-50 English and Greek, maybe 60-40 English and Greek. We certainly use more English now than in the past.
It's like doing the French Catholics.
Yeah.
It used to be Sacred Heart was strictly French Catholic, and then of course population went down, so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say like on Monday, you did, when Greg's funeral on Tuesday, you offer, of course, communion.
Well, not at a funeral. The funeral's different.
Oh, you don't then?
No, funerals.
They do with us.
Yeah.
But, okay, so if I was, say, a guest at your liturgy and you offered communion, I shouldn't go up there.
No, we're not in communion with each other.
Yeah.
And we feel that in order to share the body and blood of Christ, we have to share the faith. And until we share the faith, we can't be at one Eucharist.
But it's still the same on blood and body of Christ.
Yeah.
Just because I'll tell you, the Episcopal and the Anglican churches, of course, I went to a funeral way back years ago, and someone said, "You got to go out for communion." I said, "I do." And he said, "Oh yes." Well, then I went up and came back, and next day someone said, "You shouldn't have gone." I said, "Well, how do I know?"
Yeah.
He told me to come up, so I did. But and of Because the Anglican is almost the same as Catholic anyway. It's just another version of Episcopalian. But I just find it all interesting. I just, you know. But then of course you have a big Greek festival, I know, in the fall, right?
Yes, yes, the third Saturday of September.
Yeah, and all the Greek goodies, and you have some good pastry. Oh,
It's
I
all
know
good.
cannoli
It's all good.
and cannolis. That's all I see. And oh, brother, and there's something else. Can't think of it. There's something else. It looks like a pie, not like a pie, but it's pastry. But I can't think. You know what it is, Brian? What is it? Yeah, I know. I can't think. It looks like pastry with some sugar on it and some kind of maybe not syrup, but something. It just
All the pastries have syrup on them.
really.
Yes.
This one here, you slice and slice and it's really like, oh gosh,
Is it
I know.
not baklava, is it?
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Baklava.
Nuts, yeah.
I knew this because I've seen it down the Vinos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
baklava. Yes. But yeah, I understand you sell out on your.
The pastries always go, yes.
Oh yeah.
Most of the food goes.
Oh yeah.
It's excellent.
Yeah. Well, the Vinos family. I mean, Billy works so hard in his new restaurant down there. It's been
Yeah.
there now for a while, but when they were on Loudon Road, but they had all the brothers there at one time. But their food is very good. You can't beat it.
No.
You know, the Italian food. He makes his own sauce and makes his own chicken cordon bleu and all that stuff. I mean, boy, that guy, I tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Greg over there at the Lobster
Yep.
Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, they're all good. They're all
I
good.
mean, his fish, you can't beat that fried fish, I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
The only place I've ever found anything comparable is down in Kittery, Maine, at a place called Bob's Clam Hut on Route 1, but no, I'm telling you. But no, it's interesting because I just find the whole thing, you know, we're almost the same in many things, but that one, you know. But then I've noticed when sometimes the Pope, excuse me, when there's been a new Pope installed or something, I see the patriarch. It looks like because they have that like a square hat.
Yeah, in the veil.
In the veil, and they're there
Mm-hmm.
when he's installed or whatever. And I also saw them at President Gerald Ford's funeral. They came in. I see them patriarchs come in. So.
Well, they may not be the patriarchs. They're probably at the president's funeral is probably the Archbishop of America.
Oh, okay.
That was there. They all look exactly alike.
Oh.
I mean, but they all have the same headdress, and there's no distinguishing different ranks.
Oh, because I remember I was watching I always loved Gerald Ford. Maybe because he was a Michigan football player, but he was a good president. And I like Betty too. She was very down to earth. But I remember seeing them come in at National Cathedral there, and I wondered what that was. But I think it's interesting because you drive by your church and you wonder how many. Like I said, I used to see Father Newman every once in a while, and such a great guy. Is he still in Boston?
Yeah, he's the dean of the cathedral.
Really?
Yeah.
Boy, he worked his way up.
Yep.
Now his kids are all out of school now, right?
I don't know.
There were some at Bishop Brady, but I don't know. I assume he must be living in Boston, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's good though. I wish him well. But I'm so happy you came on today.
Yeah, him too.
You know, I mean, it's good to get to know your father, and I hope that we can get you back on again soon. So.
Anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I love listening about it. And we'll try to get deeper into it sometime next time around. But you know, it's not picking one faith over the other, but it's learning, it's education. I mean, I've had Lutheran minister on, I call him a father. I've had the Episcopalian on, and the Anglican hasn't been on yet. But you know, we just try to, you know, but. That's what makes the world. And you got 3 minutes left, so we're getting there. But anyhow, so now in Greek, how would you say in the name of the Father, the Son, and all that?
Iston onomatopatros, ke tu iou pneumatos. Amen.
So So that's in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And you said that, okay. And do you do a peace be with you, that type of thing? Or,
no,
you don't do that.
the kiss of peace sort of for the laity fell out of the liturgy in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Some parishes try to reintroduce it because there's a command to love one another. But sometimes there's a resistance to it because people say that's a Catholic thing, even though it isn't. It goes back into the early church.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we just shake hands or something.
Well, yeah. The Greeks never just shake hands; they always kiss.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Goodness sakes, I never knew that.
And usually the kiss of peace, the exchange is Christ is in our midst; He is and always shall be.
Wow. Interesting. Interesting. Brian, we're getting down there, are we? Time to say goodbye, is it? Oh, 2 minutes left? Oh my goodness. So, one thing quickly. Now, I was told, and I just got told differently by Chris Baptist, but with Greg, I was told that the Greeks do not embalm and they do not do autopsies. Is that true?
No. There's no restriction. There's no forbidding of embalming or autopsies.
Oh.
That was a choice that they made for their family.
Really?
Because I think his mother was also not embalmed. But on the whole, the embalming is okay. Now the Greeks in Greece don't embalm.
That's where it's. I knew I heard that from somebody.
Yeah, that's they still maintain actually the pre-Christian ancient Greek tradition of basically burying the person the day after they die. So it's they'll have an overnight vigil where people will come and they'll the women will improvise songs of lamentation in the villages, probably not in the cities, but in the villages, and just as they did in antiquity. Yeah. And then the next day the body will be taken from the house into the church, and then from the church into the graveyard, which is usually right by the church.
Wow. Well, we're going to have to say goodbye, but thank you so much, Father Newman, for coming on, and I really wish you well, and please, you're welcome to come anytime if I don't call you or whatever, so.
Okay, well, anytime you need me, I'll be there.
Thank you so much, dear Father. Thanks, Brian. This is Faith Speaks on Milford Canton and around town. We'll see you all soon.